Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back for my latest video here. And if you are new here, I like to make these little videos about films I enjoy and want to share. Typically, I avoid spending any time ranting about a film that I didn't like, wanting to leave those films for the audience that they've found and focus on what I enjoy and want to share. But occasionally they do come up, usually in the form of like a franchise revisit where I'm checking out, every film within a specific franchise. Also, I seem to lean on this channel a little bit more towards horror and some throwbacks for like 80s films that people don't seem to talk about as much anymore. But occasionally I do throw in something new, or at least something a bit newer and a bit different. And in this case, I do have a different one, a very strange one. So for this entry, I watched Eraserhead from 1977. So this is written and directed by David Lynch, and it's been on my to-watch list for about 25 years now, and I finally got around to it, as I've been kind of revisiting Twin Peaks recently, and I've been wanting to revisit like Wild at Heart, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, among others. So I figured I'll start with this one, the one that I hadn't seen. But what is this film about, and why am I referring to it as a strange one, other than the fact that many of Lynch's films seem to evoke that kind of response from people? Well, here's the synopsis. Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child. Okay, mutant fam represent here for that. But yeah, Henry Spencer is played by Jack Nance, who I've been, rewatching Twin Peaks, and he's in that. He also played a doctor in the 1988 remake of The Blob, which I also did a video for not too long ago, so stick around to the end and I'll link to that one as well. Other than that, the only other person I recognized from this was Hal Landon Jr. I didn't actually know his name. I had to look him up. But he was the only other one that I recognized, as he played Ted's father in all three of the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure films, which by comparison, of course, are quite different kinds of films. But yeah, after watching this film, I looked up a little bit about it to get some more detail, because it is a strange one. And what really stuck out to me were the comments I was seeing stating that if you asked 20 people to describe this film to you, you would get 20 different answers. I kind of disagree with that. I think you'd probably get more like 50 to 100 different answers, with those 20 people kind of reinterpreting and reevaluating it as they're trying to even describe it. So the synopsis is solid and does kind of tell you what's going on, gives an idea of what to expect, but well, here are a few more impressions that I have, to go along with the footage that I'm putting up, which may not really even be making much sense as I speak about them. So this is definitely not a, standard formula kind of film when it comes to storytelling. It feels very surreal and dreamlike. The most current comparison of that feel, though completely different from the storytelling, the way that they do it, would maybe be those animated shorts of Salad Fingers. That's a very strange comparison to make, but this strange presentation of images and very light dialogue, seemingly loose storyline to follow, and appears to lean more towards trying to make you feel something kind of uncomfortable and confusing and stressful. Now, of course, in the case of this film, that works really well because it brings you into the shoes of Harry Spencer, trying to make you feel what he's feeling, though much of these scenes may not really make much sense. And if you check out the film, you'll see what I mean by that. But as for that dialogue, there is a lot of silence in this film, where we're only playing off the sound effects and looks and reactions more than any dialogue coming from some of these characters to kind of pull you along in these scenes. It's also in black and white, and overall it really put me in Henry's shoes. I felt stressed, even though his character is supposed to be on vacation. Confused, even though some aspects of the story are, pretty straightforward. Some of the scenes play out pretty easy to follow. Though even when taking some of this in, I wasn't quite sure why some scenes were in it, or why they existed at all, like why they were put together that way. But it's definitely an interesting one, and it had me kind of reflecting on what little I remember of, because I guess it's been about 7 years now since I saw it, this documentary about David Lynch called David Lynch, The Art Life. Which went into some detail about his life and his passions, seeing this tiny peek into how his mind works as an artist. I kind of get where he's coming from trying to present this, and of course this is one of his earliest works. But this also kind of shows why he doesn't just crank out films every 3 or 4 years like many Hollywood directors do. He seems more interested in blending the mass market media format of film in Hollywood with some avant-garde surrealism ideas kind of mixed heavily within it. Whereas like a film like Dune is probably like the least representative of his artistic desires, meaning the original Dune from the 80s, not the current one, and what he wants to represent with that kind of film. This one I can't really say it's his most because I actually haven't seen Elephant Man yet, but and there's several other films that I'd only seen one time, and it's been a long time since I'd seen those. But this one is one of those that seems to kind of show the real core, the kind of like the kernel of his art. You know, how he wishes to present you with something that will give you a feeling overall rather than only being there to tell you a story. You know, to use that medium and that story to try to convey a feeling to you. At least that's my weird interpretation of this. And, you know, if you've seen any of his films, or if you are a fan of Twin Peaks and you've enjoyed those, you may enjoy this one. You may find it very strange, but I would first recommend checking out David Lynch, The Art Life first, before diving into this, because it may help kind of prepare you for being a bit open to enjoying what strangeness there is to check out within this film. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest video of mine and for sticking around to the end. As you know, liking, subscribing, hitting that bell, all that stuff really does help out quite a bit. At the time of this video, Eraserhead from 1977 is available on the Criterion channel as well as HBO Max, now known simply as Max because that's better somehow. But more importantly, if you've seen this one, what's your take on it? You know, sound off in the comments. You know, even if you didn't care for it, how did you interpret it? And if you did enjoy it, you know, how would you kind of describe this one in a way where you would recommend it to somebody else, you know, that they'd check it out? Or even if you recommend it at all. Anyway, sound off in the comments, and thanks for sticking around to the end and stopping by in the first place, and I will see you in the next one.